depending where you are. Welcome back to another class. Today's class is about community-based design, and will be presented to you by Albina. Then after the presentation, we will have a round of questions if any of you want to participate. If you have a question, you can use the hand reaction to raise a question or leave a comment in the chat. So now without further ado, you can start, Albina.
Okay, so hi everyone. It was so nice presenting to you this topic. I think you all will enjoy it because we come across during our daily life, and I think that we can have some practices in our daily routine. So I'm sharing my screen now. So today we are going to talk about the community architecture and planning, how it works, why it works, and what has been achieved so far, and the frameworks it can help it flourish and how they can be improved. Just a short history how it have been developed during the years. So it all started in London many years ago when Prince Charles started a renaissance for Britain's urban areas, and he didn't follow any architecture or any practices. So all he did was gathering people living and also working in those deprived areas. So he followed two main prongs. The first one was attacking the products and the practices of architecture and planning professions and the developed industry. And the second one, support for what was relatively new concept of community architecture. So he gained more prominence by coming across or by gathering importance of craftsmanship and tradition by professions and other local people. So he was mainly focused on visiting projects throughout the country with who he himself visited them, making unannounced tours to meet people, hosting parties, and also acting as patron of awards or making fundraising schemes, and also making many powerful speeches on the subject. So focusing on these key points, we will also develop 10 more points later on, which are based also on history and practices by others. So it was the time when community architecture project or community-based design started years ago and continued following up. So to understand what community architecture is, I can briefly explain that the built environment works better if those who use it are actively and directly involved in its creation and management. So the development of industry in all its many parts operated in opposite principles. So, namely, that it's all far too complicated for ordinary people and should be left entirely to experts. It's not true. So many people can benefit from community architecture, and there doesn't have to be professionals. It can help shaping our homes, towns, villages, cities, and so on. So the results of not following the community architecture can be anonymous, monolithic, a wasteful development, and as a result, it can be an unsustainable community for very dispirited and not benefiting much from it. So, however, the community architecture or the community approach or community-based design, they are all the same. It's the most, I believe that it is the most effective way in order to shape our life. So we will also be identifying the 10 ingredients which can appear to make success, and also this general principle of user involvement, which as far as we learned till now, we will be applying in practices. So the first one is the local base. many successful projects start only by setting up an office or a local office where many people can walk by, and then they can have a general view or they can have a conversation with professionals, and they also can benefit from the ideas of each other. Also, they can. This doesn't have to be only the architects who can have this local office, or the housing managers, or as an overall the professionals, but also it can be the community. It can help, or it can be shown as a community office, which many people, not professional only, but also locals, they can share ideas, they can have brief conversation, and they can solve a problem of their daily life. The second one is the involvement, so getting the community affected to come together and to start working together. This can be, or an example could be a public meeting or a neighborhood festival, as it is shown in the picture on the left. And also conducting surveys, which can be both physical and social. The professionals can obtain ideas from those surveys. They can help understand where the problem is, and altogether they can help solving this problem, which is also known as a participatory rapid appraisal. So another practice of this point can be mounting exhibitions, which can inform people, or can inform locals, or can inform government where should address the problem, and also it can provide also some visuals in order to understand better. So this is a good way to stimulate interest and generate ideas. Is often to organize competitions, such as for a particular site, or for the town in general, or for the city, or for a small project. It can be anything. So this getting the media interested also is making a regulation of the public effect. It then proves difficult. One can publish once one newsletter or the community newsletter. Um, Also, debating the issue on location is almost always better than doing it in meetings. So, having also a general view, or having to understand the problem in real context and in real site, can also benefit from minimizing the problems and many questions which can rise in your head. Also, visiting other schemes, which can learn from both good and bad mistakes, or can learn from successes of the others, or can learn by observing which practice is good, which practice is maybe wrong in that case. Also, we cannot deny that children can also benefit, and we also can benefit from children. So they should also be involved and can provide valuable data. The third one is creating working partnerships. So developing a creative working partnership, which can be between specialists and others which can be users, locals, which can also help explore the options available for one project. Also, especially with imaginative use of design games and models, which can be one practice by modeling uh, the real problem, or the real project in a different scale. And also, this model can work best, which can be used by different materials into a scale, not a real scale, but into a scale, in order to understand also how the others can, or the surrounding can benefit from, for example, from a building in this case. So it is even better if we use the location, or if we use this kind of models which can become as planning for real, or a simple and ingenious technique. And even though today the technology has been developed, we see as modeling into a different scale by cardboard or by materials can be very profitable, or more profitable than designing it into a program or a technology application. The fourth point, creating user-oriented organization, which can be groupings such as residents, trader, community associations, and later on, bodies legally capable of handling property and finance, while at the same time remaining accountable to users. So can be grouping of different development trusts or neighborhood forums, or some community which can benefit for only a topic. The fifth point is the holistic approach. In order to make things happen, one has to do whatever needs doing to improve the environment. So, designing new buildings, perhaps, or more often, a whole host of relative activities, so often left out, such as mounting campaigns to deal with litter, for example, or against destructive development proposals. So, or organizing a scheme for encouraging shop front restoration and fundraising. Not This can be a practice that not only the restaurant can benefit from this reconstruction, but also the city, the town, the locals can benefit from this monument which is added into their city. The sixth one is the evolutionary growth. So, as well as being comprehensive, the service must be ongoing. So, tending the built environment like a gardener tends a garden, slowly by following small steps, we can achieve, or we can take large in an area as and when needed. The seventh one, the physical involvement in building and construction, landscaping common areas, perhaps, for example, as we can show in the picture, the planting day at Lee View in London, which gathered all the locals and community to work on this landscape project. An example can be renovating one's own home with which include other neighbors as well, or actually constructing the whole home from start to finish. So there is nothing like physical activity for getting people to understand how the built environment works and helping them gain the confidence to improve it. Building workers too can be involved in the creative process by being involved in the design and by developing a real relationship with the users of their work. So there should be a chain between the professionals, the users, and the end product, which all those chains can benefit from each other. Locals can learn from professionals, professionals can learn from the user and project, and all can have and all have a end target point in order to finish the project successfully. Another interesting point is that I especially emphasize that the regular site visits can help benefit locals, future occupants, which can be moral boosters not only for them but also for the building workers. The eighth one, which I also uh, described it a little bit earlier, is the appropriate technology, even though there is much easier for people to be involved into the technology. Also, we can benefit from the technology by learning new technology applications, which can help us visualize, or they can help us putting our ideas into an application where we can obtain the project easily and early. The ninth one is the environmental education programs. 1001 ways of increasing public awareness of the built environment and how to improve it, creating local heritage centers and or architecture centers, which can also give information into the public. The, the areas can be different. It can be a town trails, it can be wall posters, it can be models of historic buildings, videos, books, guided walks, and a whole host of other simple but effective ways of slowly but surely raising environmental awareness. Um, sorry, can okay, so the 10th one is the celebrating. In order to keep the momentum going, this is the to finalize or uh, to celebrate the achievement we have been doing so far. And this is also an important point of the overall project because only by celebrating we can see what we have achieved so far and what we have come so far. The celebrating also can be in all areas, not only into the community-based design. It can be during, after a project completion or fundraising drive. The building site also can celebrate, so by being made into a feature of interest, even beauty. So building should and can be fun and something to celebrate. So what we have discussed so far are the 10 ingredients of community architecture, which were local-based involvement, creative working partnership, user-oriented organization, holistic approach, evolutionary growth, physical environment, appropriate technology, environmental education, and celebrating. So we will also be seeing applying them in practice, such as in here, for example, the black road in before and after, which also by the help of community, it all the surrounding benefited from this shaping of landscape. So people gained skills, confidence, security, and a sense of community. Also, the house which the occupants now own has increased their value of their own house and also their own surrounding. This the picture shown in here is in Liverpool before and after. So people lived in there, came together, and also with selected professionals to work into build new estates to their own designs and layouts on derelict inner city land. We also can see the Thurston and Holland dwellings, which transformed into a new communal rooftop. And we can see all many practices nowadays in converting the rooftop into a community based design where the community can help maintain it, not a single person or for example, a worker, but it should be the community which can also benefit and also maintain this kind of project and design. So we can see in here a community facility, which can also be a building or a rehab where the locals can benefit from it. For example, this is a rehab where many groups of citizens working voluntarily with local architects. And this facility can significantly strengthen local cultural life by reducing social stress and crime. So this is another interesting point in order to address this community facility. We can see also a beautiful new play center for children, which is also made by locals and professionals, and their target group were children in this case. We seen here in both photos the community care center, which is a new kind of local health facility involved by patients, medical staff, health officials, and architects. So, in all those practices, we see many professionals. We have touched many projects which influence many group of people. Uh, we can see in here new public gardens and estate landscaping, which was created by community groups working with architects and community artists. Local children were also involved in designing and making mosaic in here. A powerful and imaginative symbol of hope on the cliff top and declining seaport. So all these were made by local people working with the community artists. The Convent Garden in central London, or a conversion of a historic structure alongside a new building, which also respected the townscape. In order to preserve this historic building, a new feature was added in order to gather all the locals and all the tourists, which can also be called as a mixed-use development, which benefited for residential, commercial, office, leisure users, and was profitable for all concerned. Streets in this area have been pedestrianized and brought back to life by encouraging street musicians, artists, and paving cafes. And the beginning of a brand new rural township being planned and mostly built by future occupants who are working or making a new way of living and working appropriate, not speculative home builders to it. So as we have seen so far was practices made mainly in Europe, but we can see also these practices, for example, in here in Japan. Um, we can see the new concept of architecture and planning, which were a paradigm where user play an active rather than a passive role, and experts, institutions, and governments were enablers instead of providing and work in partnership with users. So community architecture was not only about style, but developing it in order to be apolitical, but it doesn't have to be unpolitical. So, in order to continue to work on a project or on a problem addressing the community design, we do not have to wait for government or for other fundraising, for example, schemes or organization, but we can also take small steps altogether in order to change one problem or in order to benefit from small project, for example. Um, also, after a planning issue that needs dealing with its identified, an intensive program of activity is organized, usually lasting 2 to 5 days, spanning a weekend. So a team of independent experts from outside the area is assembled to work alongside local people. So everyone with any interest in the topic is invited to participate at some stage. So the event highly publicized and the team starts by making a reconnaissance of the area uh, um, on foot and if possible from the air. So this can be also some medium or some advertisement in order to give voice to the problem and to gather more and more locals, maybe outside the city, outside the town, and not only. Also, public meetings are held and the numerous workshop sessions in order to explore specific topics. Planning for real and design sessions are held and information is sifted using highly visible techniques such as color post, notes, wall charts, or other practices by individuals. So it doesn't have also to be the technology in order to visualize all the brainstorm or all the ideas. Brainstorm sessions, which take place maybe over meals or and often unlikely creative environments. It can be during a dinner. It can be such as in this case on top of the hills in Dorset, so it can be anywhere. Proposal and recommendations are then drawn up by the team and presented to the public at the end of the event, so both in the form of a written report and in a slide presentation. Um, So not enough analysis have taken place, but action planning events seem to be a highly successful way of getting people to work together in a creative manner. They often succeed in acting as a catalyst for positive change and releasing block stages in the planning design. So this is why one shouldn't be overly concerned about the cynics who spine at what they call the community architecture. So the campaign is exactly what was and what is still needed. So little of what I have described would have been possible without the momentum created by it. Even though there is another point to stress, or an important point to stress in those kind of projects, which they can be several ways in order to make it cheaper. So even though it might not be a fundraising organization or something to finance this project, we can also minimize the costs by improving technologies and spreading information about them, by improving level of expertise through training, by improving support mechanism, particularly funding supplies. It also seems to be clear now and is backed up by research of the development of the environment that the built environment created through participation is better made physically and lasts longer, is more appropriate to its use, thereby creating satisfaction, is identified with by users, therefore better maintained and looked after. And in addition, people are trained and educated in a range of skills, and it builds community, which is priceless. So all those points uh, come up to a conclusion, which this conclusion, as in all the cases which I presented to you, is benefiting the community and the community-based architecture or design. So to conclude, we can benefit or we can have a look on the success stories. We have a great number of tried and tested techniques, so we don't have to come up with a brand new practice, but we can apply the practices by of the others during the past. We have some useful support frameworks, and all the problems or all the projects which I presented to you may seem small compared to the size of the problem, but I'd like to mention also the road Hackney once said, lots of little sand grains make big beaches. So we have to take small steps in order, and we all have to be together in order to make a difference into the community architecture. And we also have to raise our voice. We have to gather with locals, we have to gather with professionals, and we have to benefit also from children from different fields of life, which can be medicine, which can be architecture, which can be dentistry, or I don't know. It can also gather and make a great or a huge difference into our community. So thank you for your attention. I hope it was clear and you also benefit from this presentation. If you have any question, please feel free to ask.
Thank you. As I said, if any of you have a question, you can use the hand reaction or leave a comment in the chat. So for now, I see a comment in the chat from Caleb Desir. He asked, what makes a project a community one?
Okay, so a project, a community makes the project a community one, even a small problem which you can face during your daily life. For example, if there is not a park for children, or if you see that the children are stressed or they do not spend much time outside, this can be a problem which community can be all together in order to shape, for example, the landscape, or in order to create a small park for their own children. This can be an example. All the problems we are facing during our daily life, in order to give a voice to those problems, if they are major problems, we can give voice to them, or if they are small, we can gather a small group and give answers to this problem.
Another question from Yusufa in the chat. And what are the fundamentals of community designs?
So community design, in many cases, for example, if there are not many fundraising, or if the cost is very huge, maybe um, I, as a local, can go to the government and also can present to them in order a problem which can both benefit from this problem, and then giving voice to this problem, we can also benefit from, or we can also have a small amount of funds in order to then address this problem, um, and to then make a small change or a bigger change to the community.
Do anyone else have a question? Remember that you can use the hand reaction or leave a comment in the chat. Okay, we have a question from Clinton Mawanda. Let's see what they have to say.
Okay.
Hi everyone, mine is so simple. I just needed to share. If you have some best practices you can share with me. There are strategic mapping procedures for them to get all stakeholders to the same page. How is it done? If you find that different stakeholders have different mindset.
Oh, sorry, can you repeat it again?
One is purely how to bring all stakeholders to drive the same agenda, because our mindsets are completely different. How is it done?
So you are saying that if the mindset is completely different, right? My suggestion is, for example, if you are
Exactly.
okay, yes, now I understand. My suggestion is that if you are addressing a problem or a community problem, project, maybe if locals can have a different mindset, maybe there is time where they can collaborate with professionals. So they better know, or by their knowledge, they can give a clear vision, or some practices which function best, or they are better, or they are wrong. In order to have, or to clear the questions, or to give answer to the questions, maybe my suggestion and would be benefiting from professionalists.
Those are the lucky ones who stay around communities, professionals. If you're the only one in a particular area and you're the only qualified person, it can be a hard paper, but thanks very much.
Thank you, Clinton. We have another question in the chat from Kasuba Dennis. He asked, given global warming, how is settlement and environment dealt with given population pressure in development projects?
Um, can I read the question?
He asked,
Yeah.
given global warming.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I cannot read it. Can you read it for me, please, Antonella?
Okay. Given
Thank you.
global warming, how is settlement and environment dealt with given population pressure and development projects?
So considering the global warming, maybe there is a huge issue which not only deals with community but also the worldwide. So my suggestion and all the practices shows that the different changes which community, government, and government especially because they are proposing different projects into the community, they can help by maybe by putting new technology or by putting new promises into the design or by making clear some for example some requirements in order to minimize the side effects of global warming and also all together um, and also altogether can benefit from this knowledge or this kind of requirements or the premises which can be shared by professionals, by researchers, especially in order to have a practice which best serve the community and also doesn't affect much into the global warming. I would also suggest that if we have a general knowledge of how to understand of how to minimize the side effects of global warming, this can also help us improve or we can benefit from this knowledge in order to minimize the negative effects of the global warming.
We have a question from Emmanuel Oure, and let's see what he has to say. You can unmute yourself, Emmanuel. Okay, in the meantime, we have another question in the chat from Caleb Desir. What can be the difference between a community project and a public project?
The difference can be that the community project, for example, doesn't require or doesn't have much changes. For example, a building. It cannot be a building because the building requires such general, not only information, but strict strict codes and laws and regulations which can not be developed by community only. I say that this, for example, the building or building uh, something big can be made by professionals, and this can be a big project which requires a general knowledge for professionals, and small projects such as, for example, which are addressed to the community design. It can be, for example, plant. I don't know, maybe a small garden, or maybe if they see that there are not much landscaping in their own cities and towns or in the neighborhoods, or if they see, for example, someone in a wheelchair and there are only steps. So incorporating a ramp in this case can be a job or a project for community. So all those projects which are not doesn't require doesn't require a strict regulation, this can be addressed to community.
Another question from the chat. Which From Yusufa, which books you can recommend for more details on this topic?
Yeah, I don't know if I can share the presentation with you, and throughout the throughout the presentation also I incorporated some books. For example, the one I like most is from Riba Community, which also all the information which I presented was subtracted from this book. So, Royal Institute of British Architects, Community Architecture. This is the book which I suggest for this topic. But also, you can see uh, some other books during my presentation.
Yeah, another question from the chat from Kelvin George Sakatati. How do they choose the leaders to make decisions of the type of structures building to be constructed in the given area? Will government be involved or only the community can decide?
Um, on those structures or building, as I mentioned earlier, there are some regulations which professional can address those regulations into a real life building. I am an architect, and I would say that um, I have a license of building a building, for example, a residential building, but I can benefit from community. For example, I can gather if I go into a site visit, I can go there and I can interview or uh, have a meeting with locals, and I can benefit from them, or I can ask them what is one problem that you would like to be solved by this building, or what do you suggest in order to make this neighborhood more lively or more vibrant. And this is also a project where community also is um, benefiting from professionals, and I, as an architect, I am involving the community into my design. So if they say one problem is, for example, we don't have many shops in here or grocery shops in here, there is a problem which I should be addressed, or I should be incorporating this problem into my design or into our design. So even though it is a big project where the professionals can handle it, but in my view, the community also it is the fundamental user target, which um, if we do not incorporate or if we do not have gathering meetings or a conversation with them, maybe our design and project uh, can have a negative impact on them.
We have another question from Nomore Chifamba in the chat. And how can we incorporate the plight of people living with disabilities to have access into buildings, as most acts and codes used to say, provide a lift from third floor, which is disadvantaging disabled peoples?
Oh, I lost it. Where is the comment? Can I see the
I don't know.
question?
He sent it because he cannot send it there directly to the hosts. And he basically is asking that if they can incorporate plight of people with disabilities. For example, maybe providing a lift from the third floor, which is disadvantaging for disabled.
Um, Another important problem, for example, while we are designing a building, a residential building, is taking into consideration all the stakeholders, all the uh, end users. So if there is a stair, there must be a ramp. If there is a stair, there must be an elevator. But if there is an elevator, there must be also um, um, an elevator which is bigger than the others, and it can serve as an emergency, which can a barrel can fit in it. So we have to think of all the possibilities in order to take into consideration all the end users of the buildings. So these are small steps or small designs for all the community.
We have a question from Abdul K.H. Peters. Let's see what they have to say.
Hi, pleasant good morning to you.
I
My questions relate to the architectural and modern day, and how would the AI would integrate into that kind of design, and if you would have ever used such system or such controls.
I didn't quite get it. Please, can you repeat it again?
Yes.
Thank you.
Currently, drawings and architect in the whole, whether it be mechanical drawings or engineering drawings, now we're having AI systems. So, how the integration of the AI and architect with AutoCAD is in modern day, proficiency, and how um, that would have worked well, and if have you ever used such system?
Uh, um, in my opinion, so the technology, for example, the technology in architecture and engineering has become very, or the advantages that we are taking into consideration from technology into our fields is beneficial from us. Uh, for example, by using of artificial intelligence, the programs of architecture uh,
Mm.
can shorten the time of designing. but we cannot, I mean, in my opinion, it cannot replace all the professionals, or for in my field, the architects, because
Hmm.
uh, we can benefit, for example, if we incorporate the knowledge of the artificial intelligence, and then by this knowledge we can then um, incorporate into the new technology, and all this practice can help us making the design or the project more uh, not perfect, but 99% successful.
Yeah,
So
we can
this is
say
a
that.
way I think.
Yeah, we can say that. Yeah. Great. Appreciate. Because the world is
Thank
moving at a
you.
fast pace. So AI would take off that load to some extent. But like you're rightfully saying, we still need to be proficient in the drawing techniques.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Right.
Because we also need to have a look on what to get and not to get from the artificial intelligence. So not all the information that we are gathering is beneficial or uh, serve our problems. So there should be also a human mind behind or across the artificial intelligence in order to uh, make it right, or to in order to address some points and to let other points not included into the problem.
Wonderful. Appreciate. Good.
Thank you.
Great.
We have a question in the chat from Timothy Musa. He asked, who is responsible for the final approval of the community design before commissioning the project?
Um, so once you are addressing community design architect, community design project, it should also the final stage or the final person who is responsible for approving or then getting an approval for it is usually the government, according to the project size. And also, not only the government, but also the private organizations, uh, which can also fundraise this project. It can be also a private investor. It can be a non-profit organization. So there can be many and stakeholders of the project.
Do anyone else have a question? We have a little bit of time before the class ends. Albina, would you like, we have a question from CC Jules, and let's see what they have to say.
Hi, Sissy. Can you hear?
Thank you. Thank you very much for the presentation.
I think he's having connection problems because I can't hear him well. And
Yeah,
you can
me
write the
too.
question in the chat. So we have another question from Clinton. In the meantime, CC writes his question. Let's see what they have to say.
Okay. Very simple. Albina, maybe it goes to the rest of these my colleagues. Mapping matrices you use when you're planning such an activity to know who are those most influential stakeholders before running such an activity. Have you tried benchmark, especially for this particular program of like the PhD I'm doing regarding to the sustainability community development? I would really want to understand what stakeholder metrics can I apply when I'm getting to engage to different stakeholders, especially in the community. That's what I wanted to know, or if there's any, or we can share practices from my other colleagues. Thanks very much, Tim.
Clinton, I didn't quite hear it at the beginning, but I think that I am reading your question in the chat. So you are asking, do you have a stakeholder mapping metrics to enable run such activities?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, that's
so
what I mean.
mhm. I mean, also, I mean, it depends on the problem or on the size of the problem you are addressing or the community problem you are addressing it. So it can, for example, there are a lot of activities which can have different stakeholders. But I would also say that if you, even though you have a question or a problem addressing the community, you can get answers if you are gathering many information and knowledge to that problem, and then by understanding the size and the end users of the community problems, uh, then we can understand what are the stakeholders or what are the end users of it. So there are many problems and many projects which cannot have an exact metrics, or if this is this, then this is it. So there are many other practices which depends on the project.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Albin.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We can answer one more question. In the chat, I have this one from Dousaka Rebalne. He asked, in your opinion, what impact does architecture can contribute to the development of a country?
Yeah, sure. I can give you an example what government, for example, nowadays are implementing into the new projects. So they are making a competition for one project, for example, and there are some requirements of this project. And the importance of that project starts from the government. So from the overview of uh, the initial project. Uh, and then by this requirement, it is the architect's job in order to translate the object into the city's landmark. So by implementing new practices, for example, by implementing a system for daylight factor or by implementing a system, for example, for green roofs, or by implementing a system for facade, or by implementing practice for community gatherings. This can be so there the concept should be very interesting in order to change or to shape the landscape of the city. In our country, or in my country, for example,